Guys, I gotta admit, it's been absolutely hilarious watching the mainstream media cover this situation about these Russian warships and the Russian nuclear submarine that is now chilling right off the coast of Florida. It's absolutely hilarious watching them try to downplay this threat after they've been fear mongering about Russia for years now. Literally, Putin's going to try to take over the world. Putin's going to launch nukes. Putin's going to bring about World War III. Everyone, we need to send hundreds of millions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. We need to keep giving Ukraine money because Putin is dangerous. Russia is dangerous. Guys, everyone, we need to be afraid of Russia. We need to give all of our money to Ukraine. They've been going crazy about that for over a year now. And then, all of a sudden, Putin's freaking navy, the warships, the nuclear submarine, they pull up right off the coast of Florida. And the same people who have been fear-mongering us about Russia this entire time are like, hey, nothing to see here. Oh, right. Those Russian warships, they pose no threat. Wait, I thought that Putin was trying to take over the world. I thought that Putin was the biggest threat to the free world. I thought that Putin was on the verge of launching nukes. I thought we had to keep sending money to Ukraine to fight Putin. And now you're telling us that the freaking warships and the nuclear submarine that's right off the coast of Florida, now you're telling us nothing to worry about, nothing to see here, folks. It shows you how full of crap these people are. They are absolutely full of crap. And they don't even try to hide it. They don't try to hide it at all. They're blatantly in your face, showing you how hypocritical they are, showing you how they will flip-flop in a moment's notice. The reality is they're trying to downplay this situation because they know it makes the current administration look bad, and there's a big election coming up. So they don't want to freak out Americans too much because most Americans, or at least most people in Florida, remember a time where we didn't have nuclear submarines 66 miles off the coastline. But, hey, let's go ahead, let's roll this clip, let's watch them downplay the situation, let's listen to what the mainstream media has to say, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts of my own.
4 Russian warships are headed on the way to Havana, Cuba, about 90 miles from the Florida coast, due to arrive Wednesday for military exercises, a move certain to heighten tensions between the U.S. and Russia. Pentagon officials say they're monitoring the ship's movements, but they are not concerned. Cuba hosted Russian military exercises every year between 2013 and 2020. Cuba's foreign ministry says the ships pose no threat, but we all know the situation in Ukraine has changed the trajectory of this situation and relations. Saying in a statement that the visit corresponds to the historical friendly relations between Cuba and the Russian Federation. None of the ships carry nuclear weapons, so their stopover in our country does not represent a threat to the region. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin told reporters he would consider arming countries that are hostile to the U.S. and its Western allies. The remarks came after the Biden administration gave Ukraine the green light to use U.S.-made weapons to defend its Kharkiv region against Russian strikes. Here to talk more about it, retired Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert. Welcome, as always, sir.
Thanks, Marty, for having me.
What's your level of concern, your read on Russian warships so close to the Florida coast?
Marty, there isn't a direct threat here, but it is a not so subtle reminder from the Russians to the United States that they also have global reach and they can operate in our own backyard. They plan to execute some exercises while they're alongside of the Cubans and the Venezuelans. And it's just a great reminder from Putin to the United States in hopes to deter our support to Ukraine that they can reach out across the globe as well.
Can you give us an idea, John, of what these military exercises will look like or what they have looked like in the past?
Absolutely. This is going to be the largest one in several years, and it really is just a proof of concept of different countries being able to operate together. It isn't going to be a direct threat to the United States, but again, it is a very clear signal from Putin to Biden primarily in an attempt to deter our support that they can reach out close to our homeland as well.
So it's about posturing, and although the U.S. says it is not concerned, what type of readiness when these exercises are happening gets put into place?
Marnie, all of the things that provide due diligence, but it also provides us a chance to assess via intelligence the types of capabilities that these countries have or could have, say, in the case of an escalation that would cause war to drift into the Western Hemisphere. But right now, we're going to be watching, we're going to be listening, and we're going to be as vigilant as necessary. But it's just 4 ships from the Russians, and it's not something to worry about. But it is a strong signal, again, that the Russians do have global capability.
How about your response to Putin telling reporters he would consider arming certain countries hostile to the U.S. and Western allies?
Marty, my concern is that throughout the war in Ukraine, that Putin has done whatever he could to deter or slow down U.S. support. And unfortunately, President Biden has been very fearful of escalation, not realizing that escalation is more likely when we entice adversaries through weakness instead of when we respond and deter through strength. And all of these words from Putin continue to play into the mind of President Biden and, in Putin's hopes, slow down U.S. support to Ukraine.
The Middle East has taken so much attention and a big chunk of the headlines over the last 9 months or so. How has that impacted Putin's role on the global stage as he continues to try and invade Ukraine?
Marnie, I actually think more importantly that this type of situation is a reminder of what we remember from our history books is as the Monroe Doctrine, which is U.S. stated primacy in our hemisphere and rebuffing attempts of influence from others. And maybe now this is a chance for the United States as a reminder, not just because of this instance, but because of a Chinese spy capability that exists on Cuba, to re-snap back to making sure that we've got our house in order in this hemisphere as we also support our global interests around the world.
Right, and look to bolster our allies in the process. General John Teichert, as always, thank you.
So let me tell you how this is going to play out. Russia is basically doing what America has been doing for a long time. I'm an American. I'm pro-America. I'm America first. But I'm also going to be completely honest with you all. You see, America has been getting buddy-buddy and getting closer and closer to Russia, you know, forming bonds and ties with certain countries like Ukraine. So Russia is going to get buddy-buddy and get closer and closer to the U.S., like through Cuba, Venezuela. So if an armed conflict, if World War III breaks out, which World War III, in my opinion, has already started, it doesn't look the same as World War II or World War I, and it's never going to look the same as those wars. Every war looks different. I believe we're already in World War III, but I've talked about that in prior videos, so I don't want to waste your time here. But anyways, if this big-scale conflict happens to pop off, there's a good chance that now, because Russia is strengthening their bonds with Cuba and certain other countries in South America, chances are that Russian warships may be, you know, less than 100 miles off the coast of Florida if an armed conflict does break out between America and Russia. So Russia is going to be even closer than ever. And, you know, them being right off the coast of Florida, they've also been doing a lot of provocative things up there in Alaska as well. So now Russia is right here on the border of America. They're going to be right there around Alaska, probing into Alaska. And now they're going to be agitating us right off the coast of Florida. They're going to continue strengthening these bonds. Eventually, Putin has already said he's going to start arming America's enemies. Putin is going to strategically place certain weaponry, certain missiles, certain things of that nature in places like maybe Venezuela, maybe even Cuba, which will once again spark off another Cuban Missile Crisis. And, there's talks that even Putin's even been trying to get a little closer to Mexico, which is kind of weird. I don't see anything really happening there, but there's attempts. But Russia is going to start pushing ever so closer to America with their weapons and with their forces. I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future, a year or so from now, if this conflict still rages on, that that Russian warships start docking pretty close to America. And I don't mean just coming there for war games or little situations like what's happening right now. I mean like permanently, establishing bases close to America. So what America is going to try to do, we're going to see a lot of political and civil unrest in places like Cuba and Venezuela moving forward. Because if America does what it usually does, America is going to try to infiltrate these countries, cause a revolution, cause an uprising, so they can plant a political leader that is less likely to work alongside Russia. That's what I see happening in the near future. Russia, like I said, is going to attempt to move ever so closer to America, moving weaponry ever so closer to America, and America is going to attempt to topple these political parties, regimes, and what have you throughout these various countries, Cuba and various South American countries, and they're going to try to basically place people in power who they know are basically pawns of America or puppets of America, who won't allow Russians to come in and maybe, dock their ships there, or they won't allow Russians to place certain missile defense systems or certain weaponry in their country. So moving forward, this war that's going on between America and Russia, because Ukraine, it's a proxy war. I think we're going to see other proxy wars, or maybe not full-blown wars, but there's going to be conflicts. The battle between Russia and America most likely won't be fought, at least at the beginning. It won't be fought on American soil. It's kind of sort of being fought on Russian soil, but the battlegrounds are going to be other little countries along the way. I mean, that's how a lot of these massive world conflicts happen. The battlefields are these other smaller countries that are kind of just war-torn because other larger, more powerful countries come in and choose to fight right on their land. Fight over whatever the hell they choose to fight about. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I see happening moving forward. I see a lot of crazy things that are going to happen in the Caribbean with Cuba. A lot of crazy things happening in certain countries in South America as Russia tries to move in and America tries to push them out. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.